Stop breaking those windows. I meant the podcast.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, is the regular crew. Let's get to the news. Alex, why don't you start us off this week?
I mean, man, what even is time? I don't even remember when.
I mean, last week was about 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Putting it gently, yes.
Anyway, yeah, nothing super amazing going on here. I was supposed to have today off for Veterans Day, but I decided to go in anyway because a lot of the other people on the same project as I, on the timesheets thing that I do, were in. So,
Okay, then.
I get. They said I could probably take the time on like Friday or Monday or something. So, and nothing super exciting video game wise, I don't think. Although, I think some things are coming soon.
Well, it is November, so
Yeah.
now we're right. We're right in the thick of when all the big games get released and all that. So. All right. If there's nothing else, onwards to Pennyman.
Oh, well, it's been mostly quiet till yesterday, or not yesterday, Monday. I saw my GI doctor because this is a follow-up from my ER visit, and they want to do a colonoscopy to make sure I don't have the beginnings of Crohn's disease. Wonderful. So yeah, that's in December I believe when we start our break.
Yeah, the date you were looking at is just after what would be the last show of the season. Because it's going to be December 18th because, then we move into Christmas. No, we're not going to do a review session 5 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's fun stuff that I've been dealing with. And we also had to take my cat to the vet. I don't remember if I went over this or not, but it seems she has a tapeworm. So that's...
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, so we finally got all of her meds in her, and apparently she does not like taking meds via syringe.
But really, who does?
Fair. And... yeah, I think that's it. Just been kind of playing Genshin Impact when I, have some off time.
Right.
So I guess next victim?
Twilight?
Alright, well, yeah, not really much going on around here either. I'd have to agree that it feels like time slowed down some, that the weeks feel like they've gotten longer. But, not really, as usual, anything exciting going on around here, though. For the next 3 days, my cousin from Seattle, he's going to be coming in, not in the best of circumstances. So his father passed away earlier this week, and but he's coming in for the funeral and be visiting. So got that to look forward to, and holiday season's kicking into gear at work. And yeah, not much else personal wise. So yeah, still been playing the game for this week, and that's about it.
All right, it's my go. Well, let's see. Now the big news around my parts is, well, hurricane watching. Like, climate change is just, a bitch.
Now,
Since
nobody's trying to shoot at this hurricane, are they?
Hmm?
Nobody's trying to shoot at this hurricane, are they?
Not that I heard of, but it's still it's
Something Florida.
it hasn't made second landfall yet. Like, and that's something I'm watching since, within the radius or something, like we could be getting like 40 mile per hour winds. So, that's concerning.
Indeed.
Um, as other news, I had to take my cat to the vet. His yearly checkup. He's doing fine. He's exceptionally healthy for a 14-year-old cat. Like,
Mhm.
like, nothing really to report there. He's just, he's doing fine, perfectly fine. He has all his shots. Bit upset there, but you know, rectal thermometers will make anyone upset. But he didn't claw anyone, which is a testament to his temperament. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for the news. It seems like the news was cats this week, like
Meow.
worst things. Anyway, so merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Carson Kompon. Am I pronouncing
Kompon.
it? Of Carson Kompon Games.
Hello.
Right. So, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. As you guys were saying, time really has been slowing down.
Yes.
So not much has been going on.
Right. So, how we like to get started here? We like to talk to the people who make the games, the studio, what have you, and we start by asking you this question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, actually, I want to say about 8, 9 years ago, I was about 11 years old, and I started dabbling in Game Maker 8, and I was just using the drag and drop, just making whatever I could, and it was just dumb fun. And I loved playing games. Super Mario World was the first game I ever played, and I loved that to death. And it just the feeling of making something of my own was always just so appealing to me. So I kind of just stuck with it ever since just messing around when I was super young.
Right. And I'm guessing that passion persisted throughout the years.
Oh, absolutely. It's just dumb fun to make games. I enjoy every second of it.
Gotta admit, that's not a common refrain on this program.
I had a feeling.
Like, it's more, this is extremely difficult and stressful and other such words.
Something that
It
can't
it
be
definitely is at
repeated.
time, I have to say. But once you're in the thick of it, and once you're sitting down at your finished product, you're like, wow, I'm so glad I did that.
I'm like, certainly, but once again, not a common. These are not common words. Like,
Yeah.
but different. Granted, from what we've seen of you versus other people on the show, there is a differential scale. Because you might be for those who are watching the stream right now, Stealthscape here is a bit more simple than a lot of games that we showcase. That's not a critique or anything. It's just an observation. Versus
Oh, for
say
sure.
building, who clarify that quantum. Like, but anyway, when did this turn into a professional job? If it is indeed a professional thing, and not, just a hobby.
Well, for the longest time, it was a hobby for sure, and it was really just I prototyped in about it was it was just a day, I think. I just sat down. I was just making a prototype every week or so, just seeing what would stick. And yeah, I just thought it was a lot of fun, the player controller I made, and I was like, you know what? I really think I want to do something with this. And it just spiraled from there. And I always knew I wanted to make games uh commercially. I just didn't know what would be the first. And I wouldn't say I'm any sort of professional by any means, but it's definitely something I want to continue to do moving forward.
It's good to hear. Um, how many of these, like, is Stealthscape your first major project, or have you made other games before this?
Stealthscape is my first um commercially available
Commercially available.
product. Um I have done a few other games for game jams and whatnot and just releasing on itch here and there. There was a project that I worked on for a while that I was able to showcase at PAX, but didn't end up doing much more with it.
Hmm. Uh, I suppose that's unfortunate. Like, uh, it's
It's more so lost interest in the project.
still unfortunate.
Yeah.
To see projects not make it to fruition, for whatever reason. But I suppose that beckons the question: where did the idea of Stealthscape come from?
It's very heavily inspired by N++, the N series of Flash games.
Right.
They're very minimalist platformers. Um,
Hmm.
Stupid simple. You just try to get to the end of the level without dying.
Yeah.
And this is basically a reimagining of N++ if it were a top-down shooter. And it works surprisingly well for what it is.
Hmm. Like, gotta admit, I would not have guessed N++ on the outset. I can see it in the art style certainly, and the you know, once again the purity of mechanics. But we are talking very different genres.
Yeah.
And I suppose the next question here is why a top-down shooter? What made you want to make a game in this particular mold?
Um Most of the games I prototyped over the years are just top-down style games, whether it be an RPG or a top-down shooter, uh roguelites.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. I just really like how top-down games control and how they play, how they feel. So,
Like, fair enough, uh, and certainly a valid, valid reason as any. You just wanted to make it.
yeah.
Um, now, is there any sort of narrative going on here in Stealthscape, or is it all pure abstraction?
There is a little bit of a narrative. As you play through the worlds in the game, uh, your gameplay is interrupted by an AI that is just in game called CarsOS,
Uh-huh.
and it basically channels um, myself and my internal struggles in making the game.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's it's very secondary, but it's the nice little bow on top that ties everything together.
Like, I mean, when I get to those segments, I was reminded of all things of Super Hot.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
and honestly, wasn't expecting it. given the nature of this game, because we do encounter games of a similar, not so much genre, but this is our first minimalist type game on the program, and they tend to be less meta with their gameplay designs and all that. They're it's just all about those gameplay mechanics. Again, nothing wrong with that, just what was observed in the game. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing, did you find that as a bit of a catharsis for the making of the game, or were there other reasons for its inclusion?
Um, it's the main reason for its inclusion is I felt if someone wants to play this game, if this game is what they're looking to play,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it would be a lot of fun to throw a curveball at the player. They think they're playing a top-down shooter game where you just got to beat each level, but you get a little spice in between each world. There's as the story goes on, there's more and more challenges that are very unconventional to the normal level design, and
Mm-hmm.
it always throws people for a loop.
Not unexpected, like, um, but I suppose I'm not exactly sure how much we should probe about this, given you know the potentiality for spoilers. If that's a concern.
That's not much of a concern. I'll refrain if and when I need to.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But shifting a bit to the gameplay here, uh, was it difficult to program the physics and stuff? Like, how many people worked on this?
It's entirely me. I did all the programming, art, um, music. It's entirely done by me. I did have help from one of my friends, Andreas, who did the UI mock-ups. Love
Hmm.
that man to death. But otherwise, it's entirely me. And the physics are actually it's pretty simple. The my main struggle was just making it feel good to move, no matter what you're doing in the game.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you struggle with it at times, but once you really get your hands on the controls and you understand them, it's it's always a blast just to move around. And that was my main struggle, just making sure that it always felt like that.
I can imagine, like, and I suppose what are the white dots for?
They are coins. The scoring system works similarly to the N series of games, where you start at a score of 50, you lose 1 point per second, and each coin will give you point 0.5.
I see. So getting the coins is the secret to getting a high score.
It's a combination of that and getting the best time.
Hmm. So, like the N series, is there any gold in it?
Sorry, you cut out.
Oh, is there any sort of bonus collectibles contained in the game?
Yeah, there are golden coins. There are two found in each set of
Hmm.
levels and 6 per world total. Um, Collecting all 6 in a world will unlock the gauntlets, which allow you to play every stage from that world back to back with one timer, with its own little scoreboard for that.
Hmm.
And collecting all of the golden coins in the game gives you the ultimate gauntlet, where you play every single stage in the campaign back to back.
So it sounds like there's plenty of incentive to collect the golden uh, coins.
Yeah, they also when you do collect one, you instantly level up, so you instantly unlock a new customization option for your player.
Hmm. I suppose we should focus on that next. What sort of options do you get in terms of customizing your ship? Is it just your ship, or can you customize like the level or the enemies?
You can customize the ship, the different styles of ship. You can customize your trail, and there are different effects customizations, which can either affect your player or gameplay itself. Uh, be it sound effects that play when you do certain things, or inverting your control scheme. Um, and there's also the different color palettes.
Some stuff there I would be expecting. I wasn't sure if there was going to be any gameplay. There are some games that do that. There are some that don't. Right. And how many levels are there in the game in terms of leveling up? Like, will you have to make multiple runs through a world in order to unlock everything?
Um, I believe there's a total of 60 or 80 levels. I'm not entirely sure on that. But you can level up a majority of the way just through one playthrough of the entire campaign. It definitely depends on how good you are at the game, how much you replay each level trying to get a new score and whatnot. Um, your XP directly correlates to the amount of points you had when you beat a level. So if you keep replaying the same one stage over and over, you will just keep on getting more and more XP. But if you're just going from level to level through the campaign, you might need to uh, replay some of the levels, which you'll definitely do if you go back for the golden coins. You will for sure reach the max level.
Okay. And let me see here. So, who was behind the development of the music? If it wasn't yourself.
It was entirely done by me, and it's I believe every track except for two of the CarsOS tracks were
Mhm.
made on the Teenage Engineering OP1 entirely, and then mixed and mastered later.
Hmm. Like, I unfortunately don't exactly know what that is. It's like,
It's a very fun little production toy. Really fun to play with and just get melodies out of your head and just put them on paper and start making some.
good to know. And let me see here. What engine was this game coded in? Unity.
This is actually done in Game Maker Studio 2.
Hmm. Like, was there any particular reason behind the selection of that uh, tool suite?
I've just been using Game Maker for years, so it's what I'm most familiar with. Um, I've definitely been getting into Unity during development, and especially
I
now
think
after. I'm just trying out a whole bunch of different engines, but Game Maker's just what I know and love.
no, Game Maker has shown up on the program before, but if we had a dollar for anyone who worked in Unity, we would have a lot of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The show would have a budget.
uh, anyway, so this game also has mod support, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, there's a built-in stage editor, which all of the stages in the campaign are made with, and you can publish any stage you make in the Steam Workshop.
Hmm. And what have been some of your favorite creations that's come out of the mod scene?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's one creator, I think his name is Daroichi. I hope I'm saying that right if he's watching. Um, who just makes some really interesting stages with different gimmicks. Um, During the beta testing stage of the game, he found a bug where you could actually duplicate the player in the editor, and he
Mhm.
made a really fun stage based around that. And so I just had to leave that in. So he has made a lot of really cool things that have made me completely change how I thought I would be designing the editor, just to allow for all these fun different things. There's
Mhm.
logic support, like different logic gates, So you could make. I've made a simple bit calculator within the level editor. There's note blocks, so you can create your own music in the editor. There's just a lot of possibilities, and people have done a lot of really cool things with it.
Hmm. Well, anything else from that particular scene that comes to mind?
I know from myself, I created a Tetris 99 level where it just plays the Tetris theme, and you have to survive different stages of blocks falling at you, and just beat the time limit. Just something you don't really expect to come out of a game like this, but it's fun.
I mean, that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to mod sports, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. And if I'm remembering correctly, this game actually came out in early access over the summer, if I'm remembering, or was it the spring?
Yeah, it was March 30th of this year.
There we go. How did the early access period factor into development? Was it you know pure polish, or were you adding content during that period?
When the game launched in early access, it was entirely feature complete. I just needed to develop the campaign. So I wanted to get the game out there so people could have a chance to play it, and especially use the built-in editor for the Steam Workshop support and just create whatever they wanted. And there's actually a few stages in the campaign that are from people who played in early access, which is really cool, I think. Um, but yeah, at that point, the game was already complete in a sense, but
Mhm.
it definitely was polishing and just finishing up the campaign.
Okay, fairly standard usage of early access. And uh, what improvements, if any, did the early access period lead to that you weren't expected and unexpected?
Um, Definitely a lot of different accessibility things I never even would have thought of.
Hmm.
Um, in the options menu, primarily, the different scoreboard types. So you have high scores and time-based leaderboards. Um, a lot of stuff from the editor was improved upon during early access. Um, but other than that, really the game was already on track. I already had a vague idea as to what I was going to do, and I uh, I think I pulled it off.
Huh. Um, we'll reserve final judgment on our end until Sunday, as we are planning to review this game then. Um, but what's been the reaction for the full release? Has it been more positive, less positive?
It's definitely been a lot more positive. Um, Very simple features such as like being able to skip a level if you're stuck on it right from the pause menu. That made a lot of people really happy. So, um, just the smaller things, especially there's one player, his name's Spilt Milk. Shout out, he's named SMK on the Steam leaderboards, and
Mm.
he has the top score on every single stage. Any update I would push to early access, he would play that instantly, and they were a lot of help, and they seemed at least really pleased with the full release.
Oh, always good to hear, especially that your game has its dedicated fans that are willing to insta anything that comes out.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Um, I suppose, is there any sort of roadmap for future content, or is the 1.1.0 the last of it?
Um, I do plan on continuing to update the game. 1.1.0 added the Ultimate Gauntlet, which is playing every single stage in the campaign back to back.
Mhm.
Um, I plan on definitely adding more objects to the in-game editor. upon request. If people feel like it could use more, if there's an item they really want to be able to use in the game, I'll definitely add that. I for sure want more options in terms of a default stage. There's one scene in the CarsOS storyline where you play through the 5 levels you just played backwards as they're being deleted. And I had a few people ask me if they could have that option in the stage editor to have the levels delete as you play them. So silly things like that, I definitely want to do. More customization would be a lot of fun. Um, Other than that, I think where it's at right now is pretty solid, and obviously bug fixes and anything that comes up, any issues will be addressed.
Right. Now, in terms of computer versions, is this game Windows only, or are there builds for the Mac and Linux?
Uh, Currently, the game is a Windows only build. I would really love to do a Linux build. I know there's one user who actually runs it through Steam's Wine and has no issues other than workshop support. Um, and a Mac build would be very nice, but GameMaker requires a Mac to export there, and I do not have one currently. So uh, whenever I can, I would love to do those things.
Enough. What about versions for either the consoles or mobile? Any consideration towards those forms?
I'm not too sure about mobile, but I would definitely love to do um, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch. I think those console ports would be a lot of fun, and people would really enjoy it, especially a Switch release.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's companies out there that will port these things to the consoles. Yeah. But anyway, and I suppose my final question at this juncture is, do you have any ideas for your next project?
Um, I've been throwing a few different ideas around. I'm just back in that prototyping stage where I want to try out different engines, different ideas until I find something that sticks. But for now, I don't really have anything set in stone.
Fair enough. Um, right. I'll see if my colleagues here have any questions of their own for you.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I'm good.
All right, then. Well, Carson, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today. It was lovely
Thank you so much for
talking to
having
you,
me.
and we might have, yeah, no problem. We might have you back on the program whenever your next project presents itself. And in the meantime, uh, the game is Stealthscape. It's currently available on Steam for $9.99. The soundtrack is also available separately for $1.99, and you can get that in a bundle for $10.78. Be sure to pick it up today if you haven't already. And if you liked what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and hit all the notification bells that you have to do these days in order to keep on track of things. Like they make it harder for you every day. Anyway, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. Welcome to the topic of discussion. For those who might be new here, this is when we, the crew, talk amongst ourselves about a topic that's going on in the video game, or something that we want to talk about. Depends on the week. And this week, there are things to talk about. Among them, Marvel's Avengers. And it's not good news either. It is
Yeah.
unfortunate, but um, we do have to address it because you know it's looking like it's potentially one of the big bombs of the generation. I honestly don't know how they measure that, but uh, it is safe to call this a bomb at this point because the actual number value seems to vary. I've seen like 40 million to 60 million, but I suppose that's less material than the fact that Marvel's Avengers has caused Square Enix's HD division to post a very significant loss. 40 to 60 million dollars, that isn't that isn't change. Like, and I suppose the question that comes up here is, how did Avengers get to this point? And I think the question is so much how it got here. It's more how it could not get here, given everything been surrounding the game. Because the commentary, the commentary around Marvel's Avengers has not been kind or good, and that was even before. Um, Grant, there have been positives, like people have been praising the single player mode, such as it is. I think the biggest problem I've seen in that direction is um, it's too short, but that's not a surprise because you know, for whatever reason, they wanted Marvel Adventures to become a live service game or a games as a service, whatever terminology, it's not like a game in the vein of Destiny, Anthem, um, you know, insert game of this nature here. And there's certainly, it's not a bad idea. I get where it comes from. Play as one of the Marvel Avengers, and fight crime.
In a form of game that has historically been actually pretty okay at doing superhero things.
Right. It's not, it's not a bold, radical reinvention of the premise or the heroes. But this game has just been beleaguered by a problem after problem after problem. Gonna say it right now. Marvel Avengers is probably going to be featured on either What Will Happen and or Death of a Game at some point. I know Marvel Avengers isn't dead yet, but when you post that kind of loss,
Well,
don't be
remember, what
surprised
happened
if the
isn't
same
even necessarily about games that are inherently terrible. It's about games that something got fucked somewhere, and that's definitely the case here.
yeah, because you know because the game is still having problems. It's having problems getting its content out. It's having problems getting updates and patches because um, it's very terribly to be described as a hot mess.
To put it
Yeah,
lightly.
plus if you design your heavily the multiplayer mode that you design your game to use heavily, even though that's probably not the part that anybody actually asked for. Uh, and then you design your matchmaking around having a certain amount of people in the pool to matchmake with, and then you don't get that. That's bad.
Yeah, I mean, and that's being caused by the fact that um, there are so few players on the Steam version that it can't find people.
Hmm.
That's another indication that this game, is circling the drain right now.
Yeah, we literally have free-to-play games with more content than this for multiplayer.
Yeah, and you know, is Marvel Avengers doomed? I suppose it is too soon to say that because there are perhaps several reasons why Square Enix will continue to invest in this game, even if it's just pure sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
But it, they are still intent on supporting the game for the time being. It's just, once again, their first DLC character got delayed. Um, the next gen versions have been delayed to 2021. It is going to be a free upgrade, but that is still something that is not, that is not coming until the new.
Look, it's nothing.
Right. Um, So, that is a big problem with a game like this, especially since, another reason why this game has been nosediving is because of the lack of content. And it's not just, overall, it's who you're fighting right now in the post game. Because, well, you're still fighting the single player narrative villains here. And that's AIM. And no real disrespect to the AIM group, but yeah, it's not hard to see why this game isn't a draw when when AIM robots are your main villains right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
They're-
advanced idea mechanics, or whatever the fuck their acronym is now, is an important feature in the background and setting of several of the Avengers comic stuff. No, they're not exactly an interesting thing to fight.
no, like they're good starter villains. Like they usually show up to menace a newly formed superhero in the comics, and so it's not surprising they're being used here. But people are probably going to be wanting to fight the forces of, say, Doctor Doom, Thanos, Galactus.
Or at least fucking MODOK.
Yeah, it's like there's no name on the villain side yet. I'm sure that's coming, but it hasn't yet. And that is a problem because, perpetually fighting not even Doom bots, AIM bots isn't particularly exhilarating. And we're seeing that in the numbers. Coupled with all of the glitches, all of the technical problems, all of the concerns about the art. That's another big one, I think, because, okay, maybe not fair to project this on the game, but it was going to happen nonetheless. The actual models of the characters, they don't even remotely look like anyone from the MCU. That's by design. This game was actually never intended to tie into the MCU. But that's also a problem because, what is the popular representation of Marvel right now? It's the movies, lesser to the television show. Yeah, the actual comics, you're not going to get a whole lot of comic book readers just because there are not a lot of comic book readers in this day and age versus, people who watch the movies and the other media. And yeah, it's like there was definitely a lot of haranguing over the fact that we looked like we got the budget versions of the stunt doubles of the MCU characters. Once again, maybe not an intentional thing, but it was going to be a problem. There's also been bullshit DLC promotions, the whole mobile phone skin deal, and the Spider-Man exclusivity to the PlayStation also have left sour taste in people's mouths. So it's kind of amazing that there have been as positive impressions as there have been with this game at all. And once again, that's really centered around the single player story with Kamala, the current Miss Marvel, or it's like, but once again, that's like I think a 5 hour content dive. Once again, not too bad as a rental, but as the headlining kind of content for your gas, it's a bit thin.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's also people are trying to figure out how much this game sold in terms of units. Estimates seem to be around 3 million, and people have been squawking about how that's plenty of copies. It's all about scale. Okay, fucking Fire Emblem Three Houses Even though that's a AAA game in its own right, that game, I can guarantee you, did not cost nearly as much as it did to make fucking Marvel, Marvel's Avengers here. And that's just talking about pure development, because this Marvel's Avengers was targeting more powerful hardware, was targeting all of the consoles simultaneously. The Marvel license, that's a big one. That's probably a big part of the budget or the price tag around this game. I guarantee you, because movie, film, licenses cost money, and Marvel is going to be expensive, really fucking expensive. And it's also, we're not in previous generations where you can just squeeze out a low effort license game and cash in. That kind of died out in the Xbox 360 generation.
Yeah, the general costs of making a game that is acceptable quality are too high.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do that now, it's going to be a fucking mobile game or something.
If you're
Right.
lucky.
It's not going to be like a console game.
Yeah. I mean, they still exist, but THQ made that the original THQ made it a cornerstone of their business, and that's a big reason they got to be like the third biggest publisher out there, just in general. It's also a big reason why they're no longer in existence, because all of that business cratered. So, it's just like, relying on the strength of the license isn't enough at this level of development. You actually have to put the effort in order for people to buy into it, not just in terms of the initial purchase, but where the real money is going to be made, and that's in the recurrent user spending. The people buying the cosmetics, the DLC, all that stuff that will sustain the ecosystem.
The people who want to get all the stuff from the battle passes but don't have the time to actually fill them all out before purchasing the next one with the small reward of gems that you get from the end of it, or credits, or whatever the fuck they're calling it in this game.
Thereabouts, or the people who don't have time for that and will just plunk down the money for the currency, the currency that will buy that. Because I'm not like that. That has to exist in this game. So I don't know if this game is salvageable, but there's still avenues.
I would imagine they might spin it off into like more single player focused.
It's hard to say, because once again, it's just a problem of getting content out there. Getting patches is a problem.
Fair.
Because the development staff is so overworked. Yet, not surprising, there's a fair bit of crunching going on with this game. And another reason why there is to be concerned about this is, if this game truly gets shut down, the question is always, what happens to the development people behind the game? And the answer is, not good things usually.
Never is.
Crystal Dynamics as a whole is probably going to be fine, because they have more than one development studio at this point in time. Indeed, the lead development studio on this was Crystal Dynamics Northwest, with development assistance by Eidos Montreal. They'll probably be fine, because word is that they're working on their own Marvel project, rumored to be Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll see how much is behind that in its due course, I'm sure. And Nix's is its own company, so they'll be fine. Even if Nix's entire existence has kind of been based around porting Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal games to various platforms. So, like I said, there's a concern that the mainline development studio may not exist after this game completely craters. It's happened before. Just ask the BioWare division that made Mass Effect Andromeda about it. Oh wait, you can't, because that doesn't exist anymore.
They dumped them somewhere in the desert.
Technically, they folded them into EA Motive, but it's like, yeah, EA put a bullet into another development studio's head. Perhaps there was more cause for that, given the mismanagement that BioWare had on its own. But once again, sad situation, and Crystal Dynamics is nowhere near outside the woods there, especially Crystal Northwest. So we'll have to see what happens. But I'll be honest, it's going to be difficult. I won't say it's impossible, because we have seen games get a second wind. Maybe it's done through extreme discounting. Maybe it's done through the next gen versions.
Or they go the 14 route and blow everything up and start over.
I don't think that's an option.
I know.
It's like, even if, remember, this is licensed content.
Yeah.
So, they got to run everything by Marvel first. If Marvel's fine with that, then yeah, sure. But Marvel may not be fine with that. That's another headache with working with not your own property.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not to say that working on Tomb Raider isn't going to be complete freedom, but you're going to have a lot more leeway than Marvel. Well, once again, sad situation. We'll see how things will coalesce in the future. But yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Let's see. The week ahead, once again, for those who are new to our broadcast ecosphere, we have another program, The Last News Desk on Left, happening in about 30 minutes, though that is happening on the YouTube. It's like, it'd be nice to put a link, but the show isn't scheduled yet.
Fun.
So somebody's just gonna have to post Mac's YouTube channel instead. That is our politics show. We'll certainly have a lot to talk about there. Like, thankfully, it'll be more positive than it has been, for hopefully obvious reasons. Anyway, as far as Fragments of Silicon goes, coming up on Friday, November 13th. On Fridays, we usually do a morning show to facilitate European developers. They're on this time, not good for Euro devs. And joining us then is Piotr Gnip. I'm once again probably mispronouncing that. Of Walkabout Games. They've got a whole bunch of games that we're going to be covering, including Werewolf, I think. They've got stuff like Paradise Lost, Liberated, Wanderlust Travel Stories, and Space Cows. So quite a bit there. On the Sunday reviews, as previously mentioned, we'll be reviewing today's games: Stealthscape, Nicole, Street Racer Underground, and Political Animals. So that is our schedule for the rest of the week. And until 30 minutes from now or Friday, I shall wish you good gaming.